Today, we're going to take a look at the sounding of the fifth trumpet, which we might also call the first of the last three trumpets, the trumpets of woe. Why are the last three trumpets something for unbelievers to dread, but not believers? And if that is the case, are there still warnings here for us as God's redeemed? Is there here for us, as the children of God, a cautionary tale? Let's find out. In our last video, we talked about the sounding of the first four trumpets and what that signifies, what they individually signify. I want to kind of put a bow on that with something that's very important to keep in mind. Those are about things that happen in this world, things that affect everyone, because physical calamity in this world, earthquakes, etc., whatever you might want to point to, those things affect everyone who lives here, okay? But that they refer specifically to things that happen as physical calamities in this world, we can see by looking at Revelation 11:18, which is at the very end, when the seventh trumpet has sounded. It talks about the 24 elders falling down and praising God, and part of what they say is this: the nations raged, but your wrath came, and the time for the dead to be judged, and for rewarding your servants, the prophets and saints, and those who fear your name, both small and great. And then this, and for destroying the destroyers of the earth. Those forces, and let's just go here. Those who hate God, and that's what unbelief is. Let's not pull any punches. We don't want to water it down. Those who hate God, those who war against him, hate everything that he does. And part of that is hating his creation. Why do they do the things they do to affect this world, the weather, other things? First of all, because they're playing God, but also because they want to destroy his creation. And that is what's talked about right here. For destroying the destroyers of the earth, they will be judged. They will receive their recompense for what they have done. Now let's jump into where our text for today rightly begins. This is Revelation 8:13. Then I looked, and I heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew overhead, "Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth at the blasts of the other trumpets that the three angels are about to blow." So we've got this picture, and again, there's so much imagery in the book of Revelation. It's part of the message and how the message is conveyed. And what is the image with an eagle soaring high above? Well, first of all, what is an eagle? There's another place in Revelation 14:6 where it talks about an angel flying above with a message of an everlasting gospel. That's a message of hope and peace. This is an eagle. Eagles are birds of prey. Eagles bring about death. They swoop down from above and kill unsuspecting creatures. Okay? So the messenger chosen for this picture that we have here is in itself important. It is an eagle flying up above. And eagles are fearsome things, right? They're dangerous, deadly creatures. An eagle with a loud voice that flew directly overhead, and 3 times it says, "Woe, woe, woe." And for whom are these woes intended? Or maybe more accurately, to whom are these woes directed? Well, they are directed to those who dwell on the earth. Now, this is important. This phrase occurs many times in the book of Revelation. And so if we look at all of the instances where this same phrase is used, it's almost identical wording every time, then we can gain insight. What is this class of people that are talked about, those who dwell on the earth? Because, well, we all dwell on the earth. It's where I live. It's where you live. But here, the picture is something else. And we want to look at what John says in 1 John 2:15, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of the Father abides forever. So that clearly we are in the world as believers. We are in the world, but we are not of the world. If we were of the world would be fine with us. But as the world was hostile to Christ, because we are his, because we are not truly of this world, the world is hostile toward us. If you're James 4:4, you adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. So those two passages give some insight, but really our final conclusion that this statement, those who dwell on the earth, is definitively talking about unbelievers, is how it is used. Revelation 3:10, the believers in Philadelphia will be kept from the hour of trial that is coming upon those who dwell on the earth. A distinction is drawn between the believers in Philadelphia and those who dwell on the earth. Revelation 6:10, the saints under the altar call on the Lord to avenge their blood on those who dwell on the earth, the unbelievers who caused their martyrdom and placed them under the altar there in that picture. We've got the text here. Won't read that again. We go to Revelation 11:10. Those who dwell on the earth celebrate and make merry at the death of the two prophets. Okay, obviously activities of unbelievers. Revelation 13:8. Those who dwell on the earth worship the beast from the sea. Revelation 13:14, the beast from the sea deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And then finally, the last occurrence, Revelation 17:18, the dwellers on the earth marvel to see the beast, because it was and is not and is to come. So you look at that comprehensively, that term, those who dwell on the earth, and it's talking about unbelievers. So these woes that are described as coming, pronounced by this eagle soaring high, they are for those who dwell on the earth. That's who's going to suffer with the blasts of the other trumpets that the three angels are about to blow. Now, I'm going to signal this now because it doesn't come for such a long time. We don't get to it until chapter 11. But the seventh trumpet, as is the case with all of the trumpets, is the consummation of all things, the celebration of the elders around the throne of God, praising him, as we just read in 11:18, for the things that he had done. So that is a reminder to us, an important reminder, that those things that are blessings for the saints are damnation and judgment on the unbelievers. We saw that with the golden censer, from which the incense goes up to accompany with a sweet-smelling aroma the prayers of the saints, and with that same censer, the angel through fire and judgment and earthquakes and smoke and all of that down upon the earth, those who dwell upon the earth. Death, let's look at that. Death is for me and you as believers, death is being transformed, translated, finally having the full consummation of our salvation, being there with the Lord in the paradise that he has prepared for us. It is a blessed thing. Blessed in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his saints. On the other hand, death for unbelievers is the end of hope. It is when they are judged, condemned, and sent to eternal damnation. So the same thing, completely different for believers than it is for unbelievers. So that we've got to look forward to with the seventh trumpet. We've got a lot to get through before we get there. We've got the fifth angel blowing the trumpet, the sixth angel blowing the trumpet, and then we have a couple interludes, if you will, that we will go through. And that's something that happens here in the book of Revelation. We've seen it before with the seven seals. We're going to have the same thing here with the seven trumpets. There is an interlude and some pictures of other things going on along with, concurrent with the visions that are given here with the seven trumpets sounding. So let's jump in here with the fifth angel. And I don't know if we will do this entire section in this one video. Might get to be too long, so we might break it up. We'll just have to see. Try to keep these things fairly short. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fall from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke, like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft. Okay, we'll stop there. That's kind of a natural break point. So another trumpet is sounded, and we don't just want to skip over that like it's insignificant. Trumpets convey, the concept of a trumpet conveys something. Something is being called forth, or something is being proclaimed, announced. Control over what's happening is being exercised. This doesn't happen until that trumpet sounds, and the trumpet doesn't sound until the angel directed by God blows that trumpet. Always important to remind ourselves, God is in control. Very often it doesn't look that way by our reckoning. That's usually because we're not reckoning things correctly. But God is in control. He always is. There is great comfort for the believers in that. But the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth. Now, what is that star? Well, that star, quite simply, is Satan. Let's look at Isaiah 14:12. How you are fallen from heaven, O day star, son of dawn. How you were cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. Talking about Satan, that is the very terminology that the prophet Isaiah is led to use. Let's take the words of Jesus in Luke 10. And this is when the disciples, the 70 disciples to reclaim 70 nations, the 70 had returned, and they were rejoicing about all the amazing things that happened as they exercised the power and authority Jesus gave them. And what did Jesus say? He said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. That's very important for us to keep in mind. What was it in that instance for Jesus what was it that caused Jesus to see Satan falling from heaven? It was the preaching of the gospel, the proclamation that the kingdom of God is here. That's what caused Satan to fall. That's an important concept. The thing that undoes Satan is the gospel. And finally, Revelation 12:9, and jumping ahead in the book of Revelation, and the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So, who is this star, which Isaiah refers to as, O day star, son of dawn, how you were cut down to the ground? Who is that star that's fallen to the earth? It's Satan. I think we can conclude that. He was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He was given the key. Everything has significance. He was given the key. He didn't have the key himself. He doesn't have control over the bottomless pit himself. He gets locked up there. He does not have control of it. Who does? Who does? Well, Jesus says in Revelation 1:18, "In the living one I died, and behold, I live forevermore, and I have the keys of death and Hades." Jesus has the keys. Why? Because he rules all things from the right hand of God the Father Almighty. So Satan only has the control that he is allowed to have. He has a leash. We'll talk about that more later, if not today, then another day. The shaft of the bottomless pit, that term for shaft there is simply the idea of a hole, an opening. It's the same word in Greek that's used when they would dig a well. It's a hole. It's an opening down to, in case of a well, where the water is. But here, the bottomless pit. Okay. This is a place where I wish, I'm using the ESV, English Standard Version, decent enough translation. Just a note on Bible translations. They all have their problems. There are challenges that exist in translating from one language into another. And very often with whatever translation we're using, we will find things that, if you know the original languages, you wish they would do differently. Something I wish they would do here is, rather than calling this the bottomless pit, translate it consistently as the abyss. The abyss. Because that's what it is. It is literally, you can see it over here, abyssu. Abyssos is the nominative. It's the abyss, the depths, the underworld. Okay. And yes, it's a bottomless pit, however you want to picture it. The legion of demons, that's where they didn't want to go back to. They begged Jesus to not send them back to the abyss. Okay. So it is the place of the dead. It is the place where Satan and his evil minions are bound in chains of darkness, as Jude calls it. Okay. And another thing, in large part because of comics and the like, cartoons and the like, hell is not Satan's playground. Okay. He's locked up there. He doesn't want to be there. No one wants to be there. He fell. He was cast down. It's pictured different ways. But he opened the shaft of the bottomless pit. He's given the ability to do this. He's allowed, is maybe the best way, just to keep it straight. He is allowed to open this bottomless pit. And when he does, what comes out? And from the shaft rose smoke, like the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft. So smoke. What does smoke do? What does smoke do? Smoke obscures the light. so we can understand that smoke obscures the truth. Smoke is unpleasant. It's described and pictured the way it is for a reason. And again, remember, we have said that this woe portrayed by the fifth angel blowing this trumpet is something that is afflicted on those who dwell upon the earth. Unbelievers. Unbelievers are deceived. Unbelievers are kept from the light. Well, what will smoke do? Smoke will keep you from the light. If you've ever seen like pictures of a forest fire or when an oil refinery catches on fire, the vast amounts of black smoke, it will blot out the sun. It will blot out the light. Okay? Who is the light? Jesus is the light of the world. Let's go back to Joel 2:30. Okay? And this is a passage, the book of Joel has a great deal to do with this section here. We'll get to that again when we start talking about the locusts and the horses. The book of Joel has a great deal to do with this section here. But in the book of Joel, there's a prophecy that most of us know from Jesus in the Gospels and from Peter's sermon on the day of Pentecost. But he says, I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke. So those columns of smoke that obscure the truth, that obscure the clearly discernible light of the gospel. The smoke gets in the way, prophetically foretold by Joel, referred to and applied by Jesus and by Peter. So the sun and the air were darkened. We talked about Jesus being the light of the world. Even more, Jesus is the light of the world in John 8:12. And you are the light of the world. Jesus says that in Matthew 5:16. You are the light of the world. When we proclaim his truth, when we herald his gospel, when we share that message of salvation with others, we are the light of the world. So this smoke from the bottomless pit seeks to obscure all of that, to shut it down, to keep it from shining. And there's so many pictures here, right? Smoke hides the light. The light is life. Without any light, there can be no life, no photosynthesis, no plants, no life. Everything comes to a stop. Now, I hate to do this, but we're going to have to stop here because what we're going to go into, we're going to talk about what that smoke transforms into. We're really going to get into the meat of this. There are just so many layers of meaning here. But we will be back soon and we will complete this blowing of the fifth trumpet. That concludes our broadcast for today. We publish our videos on YouTube, BitChute, and Brighteon. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give us a like or a thumbs up. We invite you to subscribe so you can continue to receive our content. Also, please consider sharing this video with others. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below. This is Matthias 76, and together we will continue to decode the deception.